Welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa. How do we start today's episode?
Look how cute Nessa's hair is for anyone watching on YouTube. Like, okay,
I chopped it off.
whose hair is longer? I think yours is.
Probably.
Yeah, your hair's longer. We're twinning it up today. Yeah.
As you can hear, I'm still congested, so it wasn't allergies.
Oh no.
Just an update.
Well, as
It
long
was
as
like,
you aren't contagious and spreading the next variant, I think we're okay.
okay, well, it was a cold. Calm down.
I'm just saying, like that's like the bad side of it. If it would have been like something worse, but since it's just a cold, we're all
I could
good.
still spread it, but no, it was the nastiest.
I think everyone would be
cold.
okay with a cold these days.
Sure. Maybe not this one, but
So I went to my doctor's appointment a couple of days ago, and they had like some pretty like inclusive questions for their like questionnaire of like your health and whatever. I mean, it's still not perfect. And I felt kind of weird when the doctor asked me like who I like engage with.
yeah.
And my first thought when he said, do you have sexual, relationships with men and women, like my first thought was like, those are the only options. like, I was kind of upset that like, come on, like there's more folks in the spectrum than just the ones that because he said men, women, or both. And then I went with everybody, which made me feel even worse. I'm just like, okay, I don't mean it like I'm getting with everybody, but I'm kind of trying not to like, put a box.
Yeah. I always, when I go to the doctor, like right now, I'm starting to see a new OBGYN, and so they have to go through and ask you all these questions because they don't know you. And so I'm about to get a bunch of tests done to basically see for sure if I have PCOS, even though I've been diagnosed with it already. And they're asking me like, is there any chance that you could be pregnant, blah blah blah. And I'm like, no. And they have to like, they're like, how do you know? And I was like, I'm in the same sex relationship. They're like, oh, okay. And it's all these questions just like, I don't know. It's silly, but they need to know.
Yeah. Speaking of, oh no, I'm not gonna make that joke.
Do it.
Speaking of folks who aren't going down on anybody.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Let's talk about Jamie Benn.
Yeah, so what is it? Earlier in this week, or what was it?
Yeah.
Last week, Jamie Benn decided he was going to pretend like him falling on Mark Stone's neck was a complete just accident. Let's remind folks that he got a 5-minute major and then he got a game misconduct. And after the Stars got shut out, he beelined past the media and went right to his car like a freaking crybaby. Like, you're the freaking captain of this team. Like, own up to your crap. Like, one of my friends, when we were talking about this, she said, I've watched Jumbo Joe, like, cross-check people deliberately, punch people deliberately, and he's like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, he knows that what he did, he knows that that's supposed to be a penalty and like all this stuff. Like, own up to your crap. Don't go crybaby stomping to your car to avoid having to talk about any of that stuff, and then come the next day and you're saying, quote, obviously didn't want to take that 5 minute penalty, but when the game happens fast, emotions are high. Obviously, I would have liked to not fall on him, and I guess my stick as the landing point. He continued with saying, we'll probably go through the whole play, starting from our end, and try and tell them how I'm feeling and what's going on with the situation in regards to Department of Player Safety. So when you look at the replay, and I get it, like there's certain plays where obviously if you watch it like 100 times, you're like, yeah, see, like like people just go on Twitter and just like start, saying this and that, like usually in regards to how like the officials call things, right? Like they don't get to see it like 1,000 times. Like they have to make the call like directly on the ice. But they clearly knew that, that's a major, like they got to go and rewatch it, and they called it right on the ice so that they could review it. It's not like, they ran into each other and he's like flying forward, right? I get it. If you're flying forward, you're gonna like put your hands out in front of you or your stick out in front of you to try and embrace your fall. That's just human nature, right? You're not going to be thinking, I'm going to, protect you and I'm going to fall on my face instead. Like, I think
Yeah.
100 times if you try to do it, it's just like human reflex to not, to like, pretty much you will try and save yourself. But that was not the case. Stone fell over. Benn was starting to fall over, but he was like more, upright and whatever. He goes down to his knees, and you can see the motion of his arms reach out towards Stone. Like,
Yeah. It's
I
not just
don't know.
that. He literally stands over him for like a good second, a second and a half before he decides to go down on his knees and cross check him in the neck. Like you see the thought process there.
I just, so moving forward, we obviously our opinion on Department of Player Safety, they need to do a way better job, and even when they get like a certain incident right, it doesn't last very long, as we could see like with just the playoffs this year alone. There's a lot of inconsistencies, but in this instance, I feel like they got it right for Jamie Benn to assess him a 2 game suspension, which following that, the Stars were down 3-0 in the series, and now they've won the last 2. So Jamie Benn will be coming back on Monday, and
If
I
they
get that he.
lose, they should strip him of the captaincy.
I mean, they should do that either way, but we're rooting for the Stars because anybody but Vegas.
Also
But
Pavelski and
yeah,
Robertson.
and Robertson, and I haven't been watching the game as much as I was in the last couple of weeks. But I don't know. Have you gotten a chance to watch any of them? Like,
I watched yesterday's game, so a little bit of it, not, but I also kind of haven't been watching too much. But there was it yesterday? No, 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 it was the game before. I caught a little bit of it, and Robertson scored 2 goals, and then Pavelski scored overtime, and that's how they got their first win in the series. And then yesterday, I forget which player, I forget how to pronounce his name. He also scored 2 goals in it. But it
Philandria?
seems, sure, yes. It seems like the Stars are finally gaining traction. And Vegas is doing that thing where they come in overconfident because they only have one more game to win and they just can't execute. The same way we saw when the Sharks went up against them in 2019 and the Sharks were able to push it to game 7. So Pavelski's been in this situation before, and I wonder if he can kind of like lead the team to beat Vegas because anyone but Vegas. But I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
But do you feel like the games that you watch that they are like is it the Stars are being more competitive than they have in the last three games, or is Vegas doing like some dumb crap?
No, no, no. They're being more competitive for sure. I don't think I saw a lot of the first three games, but it didn't seem like they had a lot of fight in them. Like, and the emotions would get to them. They were very frustrated. Specifically, Robertson. He couldn't score for a good while, and you could see him getting super, super frustrated. Um, but I don't know. They look like they're finally gaining that confidence. So they're playing different, and they've made it a series. So
And the Panthers are just twiddling their thumbs and
I
waiting,
know
which
they're rooting for the Stars to bump it to Game 7. So you know, they have to compete or go against whoever a more tired opponent.
but if that were the Sharks, then I would be worried that they have too much time off because they've historically never had good luck with that.
Why is that? Even with a bunch of different players on the team, the Sharks have never been good with so much time off.
I think maybe um maybe it's just, when you're constantly in the game and you have like that mindset, like the break can kind of like chill you out a bit too much, and maybe when you're in like a tournament style thing, that like that's not a good thing.
I don't know, but it happens every time with the
Yeah.
Sharks. Every time.
But anyways,
Speaking of the Sharks in Dallas, the fan bases have kind of joined forces because we both obviously want Vegas to lose. Um, I don't know. The rivalry between the Sharks and Vegas isn't the same anymore, but there's still that little bit of hatred for past series and things. And so Dallas this morning tweeted out, "Good morning to Stars and Sharks fans, and Stars and Sharks fans only," and then CC'd the Sharks admin, and then said, "We welcome all on this bandwagon, even if anyone else wants to join," with a winky face. And then tweeted a list of other teams that have joined the bandwagon. Said, "Okay, so we're seeing that we need to add." Oh, or maybe they're just trying to recruit more people. But Canes, the Kraken, the Kings, the Leafs, Oilers, Lightning, Canadians, and Capitals. Would any of these teams like to confirm? So right now they're really just recruiting all of these teams to help root against Vegas. I don't know why the Leafs or like the Lightning would care, or the Canadians, but who, I don't know. This could be fun. I haven't seen any other team respond yet,
I
but there's
haven't really
a
seen
cute.
any other team kind of, well, any situation where other teams have like, I don't know, maybe not ganged up is the right word, but like collectively come under like a common goal against one particular team.
I don't know if it's like the fan bases or even the admins going against each other or what, because Vegas admin is kind of annoying.
I I feel like this might have been confirmed earlier in the year, but I think they changed admins because you no longer see send dog pics after every loss.
I mean, I guess that would make sense. They do kind of have a different tone, but I don't pay attention to Vegas admin too much. But I don't know. This is the fun part of playoffs when you get all these teams joining together for one cause to root against one team. I don't know. There's a cute little bromance type thing going with the Sharks and Stars right now on Twitter.
I have a feeling that those admin know each other, unless
It feels that way, huh?
yeah, yeah, they've got to. Or maybe that's just like admin personality. Like they're a little more extroverted with
I don't know. I like it.
I feel
I
like
think it's cute.
there's some prior friendship going on behind the scenes, which is fun. It's fun for the fans. That reminds me of, did I share that that like ranking list thing from somebody who was ranking like their feelings on like the different Twitter
Oh,
admins, and that person
um,
put the Sharks as like annoying, and I'm just
yeah.
like, based on what?
Well, so the way that they had those categories listed, it was like one good category that their team was in, and
Mm-hmm.
then the other ones were just like bad. Like the next
Mm-hmm.
one down was annoying, and the Sharks were in there. So it's like they're close to good, but also not. So it's kind of dumb, but nothing about the Sharks admins is annoying to me because they seem really chill. Like
Anyways, whatever. To each their own. That's fine. Apparently, Andrew Shaw went on to some podcast earlier in the
some
week.
podcasts, we won't even say the name, just
Well,
some
I don't
podcast.
even care to look up what it was. The information that came out from that episode was they invited Shaw on, and at one point they asked him about Quinville because apparently his name is coming up again because he's what, 1 year removed from being banned from coaching in the league. For, if you haven't heard already, he was involved in that whole 2010 Blackhawks where they shoved all the Kyle Beach stuff under the rug, and they were just like, oh, we were just so focused on winning, and oh, it like was getting taken care of and whatever. But he was asked about it, and he pretty much quote said, it's a it is a shame to me. He's the greatest coach of all time. This whole situation, I honestly don't think any of the players knew anything about it until the following training camp. At that point in the playoffs, all you do is hockey, sleep, eat, hockey, sleep, eat. They have you staying in hotels when you're at home because they want you just focusing on the game. I don't think it came into the locker room the following season. At that point, I don't think they knew who it was. They didn't know it was Kyle. From what I heard, management had a quick meeting about it, and Stan and Q got wrapped up in it because obviously they're leaders in their own area. They weren't in the meeting long because figure that's an HR thing. So let's just unwrap that first paragraph. Like, there's already so much wrong with them just having the players like, I just want you to focus like on winning right now. On one hand, I can get it where they, if you've got like, maybe, I don't want to say like personal stuff going on that you shouldn't address it, but to the average person, obviously we go through a number of things during like our day-to-day life, and it can be very distracting. And on one hand, they're trying to have the guys not focus so much on that, but as hockey culture goes, that's like their whole mindset since like the day they step out on the ice. Like, they don't have any opportunity to really grow and develop outside of the culture of hockey. And by having them just focus on this stuff, and then the bigger problem is that the entire organization, at least the ones that are involved in like the owner to the GM to like those folks that are in charge of dealing with this issue, they obviously knew about it and they didn't take the proper steps.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more complicated than that because, like we've discussed before, that these dudes are, you know, conditioned to think a certain way from a very young age. And so we don't really know whether they felt like they could do anything at the time, whether they cared to do anything, but they are uh, for lack of a better term, I want to say like they're basically brainwashed to think to be like all you should think about is hockey. Nothing else matters in this life of yours than hockey. You know, so something like this serious, if it doesn't affect them, why should they care, right? I'm not saying that I agree with this. This is what their perspective could be like. One of the things we talked to Brock about is like, you know, you can't really blame these dudes for thinking a certain way because this is how they were taught. So it's hard. Like, yes, you'd be mad at them because they're grown adults and should be able to know right from wrong at this point. But also, I don't know. This is just I don't know what to think. You know, like I obviously don't care for these dudes because Kane specifically has his own history that we're not happy about. But it's always so upsetting when stuff like this comes out. Especially Shaw victim blaming, saying that it was Beach's fault for putting himself in that situation. It's like you have no idea what this dude was going through at the time, what he was feeling. He didn't know what he was walking into, and like you know the power struggle that you feel when you're new to something and you're trying to make it, and you're like, do I have to do this to be able to get in? Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so on that paragraph alone, that is kind of highlighting the toxic environment that the Blackhawks were creating for the thing that they felt was most important was to keep the players focused on winning, even though there was one person who they always talk about, they're a family, they're a team, but there's one person who is going through a really traumatic experience, and management decided, we're just gonna shove this under a rug, we're gonna try and cover it up. And so I feel like in that paragraph, yeah, it is, I feel like it is less on the players in that situation, where what are they going to be able to do. We could, there's things that they could do, but at a certain point, with how the whole culture is set up around them, yeah, it's kind of not working in their favor. But the second half of what he said was, quote, I lived with Kyle in Rockford. He was great to me. He helped me out, paid rent the first 2 months. He paid for my groceries for a couple weeks until I got a paycheck. I had nothing bad to say about Kyle, but it's a shame that something like this had to go that far when it could have been nipped in the bud pretty quick from upper management, from HR. It should now have it should have had nothing to do with the players and the coaching staff or the GM in that time. You leave that meeting thinking, all right, they're taking care of it. My job is to coach the team. That's what I'm here to do. HR and upper management can deal with that. Obviously, it sucks, but as a 20-year-old, I would have probably never put myself in that situation that Kyle was in. I can say that. And obviously, I don't know what was going on with Kyle or anything going on in his head, but he put himself in that bad situation.
Before we we dive deep into that, isn't the expression nip it in the bud like a flower bud, nip it in the bud?
Probably.
And in this statement they put nipped it in the butt. Which is, I'm sorry, it's just silly. Okay, go ahead.
The question seems specifically framed towards his opinion about Quinville because, as we mentioned, he's trying to get himself back into the league. I think it's just a complicated thing all around with the organization because it's obviously not just on him, but he's a factor in it. And the I remember that they obviously, they tried to push it under rug, and then he had also written a recommendation for Aldrich. And I think that alone is him deciding, like, you don't have to do that. Like, the guy doesn't. deserve it. So whatever is out of your control, in a sense, with what goes on with the GM and the owner, you don't need to write that for this sex offender.
Right. And I feel like that in itself makes Quenville an accomplice to Aldrich going on and her abusing more like kids, basically.
Add, you know, you're giving him like the ability to continue working in this industry after what he's done, and you're aware of it, and you're still like, you decide, well, he should still be employed in this environment. Like, no, he should not.
Yeah. Well, so it kind of makes you think like how much of this is part of hockey culture? Because then you also had the news come out about what happened with what was it, Team Canada in was it what year was it? The 2014 2014
I don't
team or
remember the
something.
year off the top of my head.
But you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, right?
Yeah.
How there's been a few investigations going on for different teams because there was like how many players raped a woman, a girl. I don't know how old they were at the time. And they all keep it a secret because it's all part of this like initiation process or whatever the hell it is. It's icky. I don't like this part of.
They don't want to be held accountable, so they try to do stuff on their end, and it never works out that way. And it just doesn't seem like they really do anything to try and prevent that from happening in the future.
Yeah, but I guess my point is like how engraved is this part of like the sexual abuse and stuff that happens within hockey that they don't think it's a big deal that Quenville feels okay giving like his recommendation for Aldridge even though he
I
knew
mean,
this was
it's a
happening.
1000% part of hockey culture.
It's just gross.
The thing from this section of the paragraph that really just had me rolling eyes was, like you mentioned earlier, that he was victim blaming Kyle. He's like, well, I would never put myself in that situation. That's so easy to say when you have never experienced that. Like, I've never experienced being in that type of situation, especially something where it's like a power
Yeah.
imbalance on top of, you know, like those kids are so vulnerable to the fact that they don't have or they don't, well, yeah, no, they don't have the ability to speak up in those situations, because the possibility that you bringing this up and the organization not being on your side is the difference of you getting to see any possibility of playing at the highest level of this game. And as kids who grow up in that culture and within this sport, that's all you're kind of sort of dreaming about, right? And I hated that part of the paragraph where he, given the stuff that he said just sentences ago, where Kyle was this great guy. He helped me out. He made sure I had the roof over my head and food to eat, and in the same
And then goes
breath
throws him
you're
under the
throwing
bus.
him under the bus and saying, but you know, he put himself in that situation. Like he could have, you know, like, no.
You
Like,
have no idea.
no. Um,
I have no
and
idea. And I wouldn't even
mm-hmm.
say like, well, but I have empathy for people like
Yeah.
it's just not something a smart person would say. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I missed this part at the end where he pretty much said that, like, if he were, but so if he had been in that situation, quote, my thumbs would have been in the back through Aldrin's fucking eyes. Like, yeah, that's easy to say hypothetically. If you were in that situation, you would think you would be fighting for your life, but you don't know how you will react until you're put in that situation.
Yeah.
So it's
Always with
just
the
such
tough
a
guy.
it's such a terrible way to, like, you're not being empathetic. You're Yeah, you're just like, well, yeah, but with all that said, that's his fault. It's but I wanted to kind of end on the fact that I'm I guess I'm more frustrated that this podcast didn't seem to say anything in regards to that after he had made that statement. It's they're just letting him speak his piece and not challenging the fact that you're victim blaming, and now we're going to platform this so other folks can hear you say it. And obviously if you've got a huge following or whatever it is, you're 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 helping to send this message that it's okay for people to victim blame folks who have experienced situations where they're sexually assaulted.
Yeah. Well, and they did get a lot of backlash, so
I really don't think that it like registered. Like, I saw there were a couple of folks who were calling them out, being like, why are you sending this message? Why are you platforming this? And uh I don't know who runs their socials. Maybe it's not them, but they were pretty much being like, yeah, but it's getting a lot of traction. Like, oh, okay. So I just don't, I just,
oh, gross. Okay, I'm
yeah,
over this topic. This
yeah.
people are gross. Ooh, I feel icky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, on a semi-lighter note, the IIHF World Hockey thing is going on, or did it end? Hold on.
I think Canada won. Yep.
Ah, three
Canada's
minutes ago.
champions.
Ah, that's so annoying.
Hey, but Middleton, I just saw him skate by.
Oh. Oh, I didn't realize he was playing. Okay, listen, Canada. I'm sick of seeing you win all these tournaments. Like, share the wealth a little, eh? I was hoping Germany would win because Nico Stern was up for like the MVP award, and I would assume he would win if the team won. And now that Canada's won, I think Sammy Blaze is the one up for that award. So, boo! But congratulations, Canada, I guess.
So another congratulations in order for Canada is Laura, Stacy, and Marie Philip Polin announced their engagement.
We're queer out here, y'all.
Yay!
Okay, I love the very positive attention this engagement announcement has been getting for the most part that I've seen. Obviously, if you go to certain places, it's not going to be so rainbows and butterflies. But I don't know, fun to fun fact. Thomas Bordello commented on Instagram congratulating them, so we know that he's for the queers.
Known
At least,
ally. Woohoo!
which is always fun to know that a player on your favorite team is an ally. Um, but yeah, we have another queer couple in hockey, which isn't surprising in women's hockey, but it's always fun.
And I guess some more good news for the queer community is the Dodgers found their brain shortly after they had it extracted by hateful people. And they released a statement saying, After much thoughtful feedback from our diverse communities, honest conversations within the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, and generous discussions with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the Los Angeles Dodgers would like to offer our sincerest apologies to the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, members of the LGBTQ plus community, and their friends and families. We have asked the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to take their place on the field at our 10th annual LGBTQ plus Pride Night on June 16th. We are pleased to share that they have agreed to receive the gratitude of our collective communities for the life saving work that they have done tirelessly for decades. In the weeks ahead, we will continue to work with our LGBTQ plus partners to better educate ourselves, find ways to strengthen the ties that bind, and use our platform to support all our fans who make up the diversity of the Dodgers family.
Yay, more queer folks at this thing. Um, so people weren't happy about this. Uh, but whatever. Pride is supposed to be pride. I don't know what to say about this other than it was dumb that they excluded them in the first place, only for this to be the outcome. Invite them back, and they just embarrassed themselves in the process. Uh, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence also put out a statement. If you want to read it, because I can't right now.
I'm going to read the part where they pretty much said a full apology and explanation was given to us by the Dodgers staff, which we accept. We believe the apology is sincere because the Dodgers have worked for 10 years with our community as well. They have asked us to continue an ongoing relationship with them in the future if similar pressures from outside our community arise. Our our organizations would consult and assist each other in responding alongside our colleagues at the Los Angeles LGBT Center and others from the LGBTQIA2S community, and now more closely tied with the LA Dodgers than ever before. And then they ended it with saying, "May the games be blessed. May the players be blessed. May the fans be blessed. May the beer and hot dogs flow forth in tasty abundance."
So I did see a clip of the sisters performing and why the religious folks were so upset that they were invited in the first place because someone was basically cosplaying Jesus in a sense, someone on a cross, and then someone started like using the cross with the person attached to it as a stripper pole, just spinning around them. Oh my god! So I can see why they were angry because from a religious standpoint that is very disrespectful, right? But seeing Jay's reaction over here, a lot of queer folks don't follow religion for specific reasons, and they don't care about being disrespectful because of their experiences with said religions being disrespectful to them. So,
This is why I'm not really like expressing an opinion, just because I'm not religious. So I'm trying not to add fuel to the fire. The sisters, from if you take a look at all the things that they've done in the past, like they have done a lot of advocacy for the queer community and a lot of things that, folks that just basically want us to go away have ignored. So they have done a lot of good things. I'm not saying that they are roses and rainbows and angels, like, but so are the people that are trying to silence them. They're just as guilty of doing things that are very can be seen as disrespectful. So I don't think it's very clean cut. But at the same time, if they're doing something where they're obviously the conservatives are trying to they have been banning gender affirming care, or they've been saying that you're not welcome in this church. Like it's a lot of actions that are trying to erase folks who are just living as their authentic selves and doing no harm. So in situations like that, I it when stuff like this comes up, I just kind of have to laugh about it because it's just like folks are just trying to enjoy life and they're not harming anybody. Like I get it, it's offensive to use an aspect of religion and disrespect it in that sense. And I would side with folks who find that offensive if you weren't trying to cause trans youth to not live as themselves when they're not doing any harm to anyone. Drag queens are not doing any harm to anybody, but there are people who are showing up to drag queen story hours and frightening children by their presence. So I guess that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it because my parents are more religious than yours. So I kind of, well, basically everyone in my family, I kind of grew up a little bit closer to that. And so I can see how it's offensive, you know, because they put a lot of faith in like symbolism into the cross. And so for them to, if they were to see something like that, they'd be like angry, like put off by it. And then I can see why they, not my family per se, because they're pretty accepting, but like someone else who could see that and then they'd not want to be like welcoming to the community after seeing something like that. So I don't know what the right answer is here because I can see both sides of it. I really can. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, one side is wrong for doing one thing or the other because everyone is different and has their own beliefs and will live their life how they want to live it. But I think we wouldn't have so many problems if people were a bit more open minded and could see things from different sides besides their own.
The folks who had a problem with it and the folks that we are aware of, like Marco Rubio had written into to the MLB about it. Like he's not doing anything to assist the queer community. Like his whole thing is basically like he's against the queer community. So I really don't care about what he has to say. I would rather have seen a conversation happen instead of the Dodgers deciding, like that they weren't going to invite them anymore. Like this dude represents people in Florida, which we like. That's a whole nother can of worms of what Florida's doing right now. But just the actions of how the Dodgers went about it, and then while we're happy that they found their brain and came back around, it's like the damage is kind of done, and now you've just like dug a deeper hole with like. I mean, I'm not a Dodgers fan, but it would definitely had me going like, well, now your actions feel a little, disingenuous.
Performative?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not for me to worry about because I'm not a Dodgers fan, so just kidding. What I do like, a little off topic actually, but the Dodgers actually hold a Salvadorian night, which is really cool because they have a big Salvi community down there, and I kind of wish the Giants would do that up here. But that's besides the point. I don't know. We're gonna be okay here. It'll be fine.
Seems
Everything's
that
fine.
way. I'm less worried about us and more worried about the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Um but I guess to end on a positive note, Pride Month is just around the corner.
We're gonna be seeing so many rainbows.
Oh my God, I'm already seeing it. And I think my Instagram algorithm is being a bit too much right now. A bit
Yeah,
too
this
much.
is what all the corporate
Mm-hmm.
support, quote unquote, is gonna start bombarding us. We support you. Come buy all of our rainbow merch.
Mm-mm. No. So yeah, we Pride's around the corner, and hopefully the NHL will actually do something a little more um, impressive than what they've done in the past. But we won't hold our breath for that.
No, I have no hopes. No high hopes there. No.
Well, I think that's all we have today. Well,
Thanks for joining us.
thanks for joining us on this episode. As always, I am your host, Jay.
And I'm Nessa. Catch you next week.
Take care, everybody.